This is the Home Services Revolution podcast, and I'm Chris Moore. If you're anything like the hundreds of home service business owners I've worked with, you know the feeling of being stuck in the weeds. You've got a team, you've got customers, maybe even got good revenue coming in, but it still feels like everything is just duct taped together. Every day brings a new fire to put out. Every system you thought you had in place, it's barely holding together, and you find yourself wondering, why does this still feel so hard? That's why this episode matters, because once you built the foundation, the vision, the pricing, the systems, the strategy, it's time to start refining. To take what you built and make it run better, to simplify, to clean up those inefficiencies that you didn't notice until things got busy, to take that friction out of the process so your team is able to move faster and your customers experience something better. Refining your operations is about creating a business that runs more smoothly, more profitable, and with a lot less chaos. So let's get into it. Let me start with a story from the book. I worked with a company that had grown fast over the past 2 years. They had great people, solid leadership, but they became overwhelmed. The owner, Tim, told me, Chris, I feel like every day I was just held together with a little tape and a lot of prayer. Now, I love prayer, but I told Tim, let's add some processes to that too. When I did a walkthrough of his business operations, I saw a few big issues right away. Schedules were still being managed on a whiteboard in the office. Estimates were being created in 4 different ways depending on which project manager was doing them, and no one had a consistent script when talking to new customers. None of this was malicious. It wasn't that they were upset with one another or it's my way or the highway. It was just unrefined, undefined. And we made a plan. Over the next 90 days, we began to clean it all up. We moved scheduling to a shared digital calendar. We created one estimate template that everyone used. We set up some standards for those estimates so that they were consistent. Everyone could understand them. Everybody knew how to manage to the estimate. We trained the whole team on a 3-part customer call script so that everyone knew what to ask, when, who collected what information, and how to follow up. And you know what happened? Things got easier. They weren't perfect, but they did start operating more smoothly. Tim was where the big win was. He got back, he said, at least 10 hours a week just by eliminating all the daily confusion that he was having to manage every day. That's the power of refining your operations. So how do you do it? Well, I'm going to give you 3 core areas to look at when it comes to refinement: communication, consistency, and clarity. Let's start with communication. Poor communication is the root of most of your team's problems, most of your customer issues, and most of your stress. And I don't just mean people talking, I mean the flow of information through your business. When a customer calls in, ask yourself, how does that information get to the person who's doing the work? How do you update customers on the job progress? How do you communicate with your crews about scheduling changes, product delays? If the answer is, well, usually a text, my guys know what to do. They take care of business. Well, it's time to clean that up. So I recommend every business install 2 key rhythms in their business: a daily check-in, even if it's 5 minutes. Every day we're going to meet, and a weekly operations review. Now, these don't have to be complicated, long, and drawn out, but they do have to happen because communication, the right communication, is not automatic. It's a muscle that needs to be trained. So let's talk about consistency. If 5 different employees do the same job 5 different ways, you don't have a business, you have a circus. That inconsistency shows up. It shows up in customer complaints, in missed deadlines, in wasted time. It zaps your profitability. It makes you spend more than you should. It causes so many misunderstandings and creates a lot of complications. One of the best ways to fix this is by creating playbooks. We did that in high school, whether it's basketball or football. We had playbooks. Everybody on the team understood what their part is, what was supposed to happen and the timing it was supposed to happen in. But don't tune this out. I'm not talking about creating some 300-page manual that no one reads. Look, I know your technicians are not going to do that, and they shouldn't have to. But what I'm talking about is really short, visual, practical tools that your team can actually use. Things like a step-by-step checklist for service calls. We're going to make sure that we did all these things. We should definitely have those on our punch list. Why do we not have those at the beginning of a job as well to make sure that those punch lists are just everything's checked off as done? We need templates for quotes and invoices so we don't forget to add things to the estimate to make sure that we invoice and bill that we're expecting, especially if we have to call vendors. You know, if you're needing to get dumpsters or toilets on site or an electrical drop or whatever that is, you need to have a standard for how you collect that information, how you disseminate it, who does what, how it's billed, how you charge for it. You know, a one-page customer script. Here's an example. Worked with a company. They had a great team, but they had terrible callback rates. We dug in and found that no two techs, they weren't doing the same prep. They weren't doing the same cleanup process. Things were just falling apart. So we created a 7-step checklist for every single job. Here's how you enter a home. Here's how you explain our invoice. Really difficult to explain something if it's done 5 different ways in a business, but it's only done one. It's really easy to explain an invoice. It makes it very understandable. And then here's how you clean up everything at the end. Callbacks to customers' home dropped by 40% in the first 2 months. Why? Because everyone started doing the job the same way every single time. Consistency isn't about control. It's not about micromanagement. What it is about designed excellence. And that brings us to the last area, clarity. Your team cannot perform well if they don't know what's expected. And you can't scale if you're the only one that holds all the answers. You're just pulling them out of the air. Clarity means roles are defined, expectations are clear, and people know exactly what winning looks like. Let me tell you what that looked like for a plumbing company. They had great people, but constant confusion over who was responsible for what. So we created a very simple job description for each position with 3 clear metrics for each role that defined what their success was. If you think that you're good in your role, here's the 3 metrics that are going to tell you that you're doing the right things. We also implemented a monthly one-on-one meeting where each team member reviewed their performance. They reviewed their metrics. They reviewed this with their manager, not the other way around. You would have thought that we gave every person their raise. People wanted to know how they were doing. They want to feel like they're making progress. When clarity increases, confidence follows. And that's where the magic really starts to happen, where your team gets involved, where everyone is pulling together in the same order because they're not confused. You know, there's a biblical principle in this that's been true from the very beginning. God is not a God of confusion, but of order. When we bring order to our business, we begin to reflect something bigger than ourselves. We create space for people to thrive. We create systems that can bless others, give good experiences both for your team and for your customers, and we reduce that unnecessary strain, that thought, that confusion of what do I do next? What do I train next? What have I forgotten? We multiply our impact by just taking a few simple steps. Refining your operation isn't just about making more money. It's about being a good steward of all that you've been given. Not just your business, but the team that you've hired and the customers that you serve. Let me ask you a few reflection questions. Where is confusion costing me time or money? What process is causing stress because it's unclear or inconsistent? What's one area of my business I could clean up this week? You know, probably just asking those questions, a few things begin to pop in your mind. You may have even missed the second question because you're still thinking about confusion costing you time and costing you money. Well, here's the thing. You don't have to fix everything overnight. But if you tackle one area at a time, you'll end up building momentum. You'll feel the chaos start to quiet, and you'll start leading from a place of peace and not pressure. And you don't have to do it all yourself. If you have a team, help them become better leaders, better managers by giving them some of the small things and let them pull together those processes and then review them with you where you can help refine those. So here's your action plan for this week. I want you to choose one operational process that just feels clunky to you, or it's frustrating for you or frustrating for a good portion of your team. And I want you to map it out step by step. Involve your team. Ask them, what do they think would make it smoother? And then I want you to write it down, train everybody on it, and then keep refining as you go. You know, you're not just improving operations. What you're doing is you are building something that lasts. You're building the real value of your business. If today's episode resonated with you, let's take this a little further. Please join me for a powerful 30-minute masterclass. 30 minutes. We'll talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that keep home service businesses just like yours from scaling. I'll walk you through the pitfalls that keep people stuck. It's consistent. It's the same problems. And I'm going to show you how to break through those fast. Reserve your spot now at 5mistakesmasterclass.com. That's right, 5mistakesmasterclass.com. Start transforming your business. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You don't want to miss an episode because just one small nugget can make all the difference in your business. In the next episode, we'll be moving to the I in BRIC, invest. I'll show you how to focus your time and money on the things that really move the needle for you. Until then, keep building with purpose because you're not done yet. We're about to do something great.